February 2nd, 2023, tax returns make you rich. So I was thinking about this, of course, and basically I was coming to the lovely conclusion that tax returns can make you rich. Of course, there's people that say, no, if there's tax returns, you're overpaying the government and you're giving them an interest-free loan and they get to earn interest on your money. So I was like, well, there's people that would not have had that money at all. They probably would have spent that money had they not had it. So it was like forced savings. So you could even add to that and say, I want an additional $5, $10 per paycheck, depending if you're paid weekly, every other week, monthly, however you're paid, and so on and so forth. So, and the different options that you have to do with that check when budgeting, expensing properly, and so on and so forth. And if your financial life is in mayhem because of something like debt, well, you do have the option to go ahead and get that tax refund and say, okay, I'm going to pay off a credit card and see what that could help, and so on and so forth. So really, it's really something you could become rich by investing that tax refund. You can build your emergency savings. You can do all sorts of things, and you could live a lifestyle with breeze and without the headache, and so on and so forth. What, for me, I choose to get a tax refund. I don't listen to that because I'm just like, I have an additional, I've been getting tax refund for years now, and I have an additional $13 per paycheck come out. It's like $26 every 2 weeks come out of my paycheck. And so I choose that for the purpose, hey, I want that refund at the end of the year, and I want to do that for whether I don't know if I'm going to have a trip planned. I don't really intend on having a trip planned, but it's something for me to add to emergency savings, or to literally go do my taxes and go, okay, I have this coming. What are my plans proportion wise? What I'm going to do with this? Am I going to put this much here? What am I going to do with this much here? Am I going to put any in my Roth IRA? Am I going to put any in emergency savings? How much of this, is there any expenses that have come up, like on the car that needs to get done? Anything like that. That's wonderful to just have that, to be like, oh, that could be from, I could be like, oh, that's just emergency savings, or just something else to take care of. And of course, I could just replenish that from my emergency savings with that. And so it of course, it feels like it disappears, but it doesn't really disappear, because it goes a lot into the asset column for me instead of the spending column a lot of the time. So, and how that is just a brief synopsis of, I guess, part one. And the choices that you have a myriad of choices. You could do things like, some people could get a down payment over a period of 5 years, saving their tax return. If they had a $3,000 to $5,000 tax return, that could get let's say $3,000 a year. We'll say $3,000 a year. If you had $3,000 a year in tax returns, that's $15,000 after 5 years. That's a down payment on a house, possibly, or it's a new car or something. It's not life altering money, but it also depends on your age, because it could be life altering for a 20-year-old versus a 40-year-old. There's completely, possibly different things to look at from a different perspective, but you have that as well. So and what you can do with that at 20, what, $15,000 invested at 20 versus $15,000 invested at 40, and what that grows to by age 60 or 59 and a half. So what you have is what the tax returns can do and the opportunities to grow. Also, there are expenses like you could buy stock advising services. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not a financial services certified financial planner or anything. This is just my opinion. But it's just something that if you ever wanted to, you could go look into stock advising services and go, oh, I have $3,000 in stock funds, and see, okay, what are these stock advising services? Are there any that are worth it? Are there any that are good? I'm not sure about this one, and actually do the work when you get advice. And because of course they do have it, but you got to do your own stock research when you get the advice. Possibly I would do it, and as well as research what I'm being advised as their stock picks, and pick and possibly have the choice from picking from those. You don't have to pick any, of course. And then you could possibly take that from there, and it could be a trading firm, it could be a long-term investing in stock advisory, it could be all sorts of ones. There's all sorts of different ones out there. Some are real expensive, some are much more less expensive. However, what you have is opportunities where some guy from one of them, there was a testimonial on one of the stock advisory firms. He had turned a really small amount of money into like several $100,000. So, in like a few short months. So that's what can happen. And what you have with returns like that, and you did work for it, and people say, you earned that money, that's your earnings. And yes, it's your earnings, and it's something that could make you rich. Or you could open a business, of course, and you could open a business. You could flip items on a business. You could do drop shipping, or all that stuff. I saw them crazy. They all have all those ridiculous commercials going on, and they have renting houses and all sorts of stuff, Airbnb and all that crazy stuff, right? So of course there's all this really amazing stuff, but so what we have is the opportunity to really get rich from your tax returns, basically, and what you do with it, and it doesn't hurt as much, because it doesn't feel like it might not feel like you sacrifice as much if you're just used to it, because hey, when you're taking out of your 401k and it comes out of your paycheck every week, and you just get used to it, and it takes a short time, then you're used to that money coming out. So if you're taking out an extra amount, say I take out in every paycheck, I have some money coming out of my paycheck, extra amount coming out, then I don't feel it as much. And so that is something to keep in mind, that it's not like, oh my gosh, I have this whole like thing where it's like, it really is an opportunity every single year to challenge and say, what am I going to do with this? And what amazing thing you can do. And if it's a really large check, like some people have businesses, and you could already be an owner operated business, and it could be a huge check, right? So you could have $10,000. Ooh, $15,000. Ooh, tax return. So there are huge opportunities for that. And advertising, some people do all sorts of planning with how they're going to spend it depending on their opportunities. And people go, oh, $10,000 refund for a business. Well, if their business only profits $50,000, then it's a $10,000. This is a big deal. But if it profits, $1 million a year, then maybe they have a $250,000 refund. Who knows? There's different tax refund opportunities when there's different tax optimizations available, and there are people that will literally go to the library and just look up tax law and what applies to them and read the tax code and see what opportunities they can do. And CPAs might say that they're conservative and they don't want to necessarily take off for everything. And it's like, what? To some people, because they're like, they want to do it within the code. They just don't want, of course they don't want to get in trouble, but they want to do it within the code. They just want to optimize their full benefit. And so you've got to find the right match, who's going to match you up with you so that you can get that full extent to getting that maximization and within the compounds of the law. And also they're going to charge you a realistic sum of money, so that will be beneficial, a great cost benefit analysis for you. So this is just possibly part one. I don't know if it's going to be a part two closer to tax day. So thank you for your time. If you are planning on becoming rich from either tax refunds or something else, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. It's always free to subscribe, and make a comment down below. Thank you so much. Talk to you later. It's Finance Nation out.